03:05 a.m., November 24th, 2025. At Mirgorod Air Base, the afterburners of a lone MiG-29 glow blue against the freezing tarmac, screaming with 37,000 pounds of thrust. Inside the cockpit, Captain Viper, a man who has dodged 2 R-77 missiles simultaneously and lived to brag about it. In exactly 23 minutes, he is going to deliver Ukraine's official response to Donald Trump's peace deal. To understand why a single Soviet-era jet is about to take on the most heavily defended airspace on Earth, you have to rewind a week. Leaked documents from Reuters revealed Trump's 28-point fast peace plan. Ukraine surrenders Crimea, gives up 4 provinces, and accepts a ceasefire that basically turns the country into a Russian parking lot. Zelensky's answer was polite but firm. Viper's answer is going to be a lot louder. He is flying a MiG-29. Ukrainian engineers have hacked this Soviet airframe with high-end American tech, an AN/ALQ-131 electronic countermeasures pod. This little gadget turns a jet with the radar signature of a barn door into a ghost. His target isn't a tank or a trench, it is the Shatura Thermal Power Plant located just 75 miles from the Kremlin. This beating heart of Russia's grid supplies 10% of Moscow's electricity and generates $2 billion a year in gas revenue. But to deliver his payload, Viper has to fly through the teeth of the S-400 network, a system designed to kill things flying much higher and faster than him. It is a suicide run designed to send a message louder than any diplomat could write. Don't force us to kneel. So here is the question for you. If you were in Zelensky's shoes, facing a bad deal and a blackout at home, would you sign the paper or would you send a MiG? Let me know in the comments below. 03:20 a.m. Moscow time. MiG-29 crosses the invisible line into the belly of the beast. Viper drops the nose, leveling out at a heart-stopping 200 feet above the ground. To put that in perspective, he is flying lower than the top of the Statue of Liberty, screaming across the border at 600 miles per hour. Up ahead, the Russian Nebo-M radar is sweeping the sky. This thing has a range of 360 nautical miles. Theoretically, it should be lighting Viper up like a Christmas tree, but Viper isn't flying in a straight line. He is zigzagging through the hills of Sumy and the pine forests around Kursk, using the terrain like a physical shield. It's a tactic called terrain masking, but tonight he's adding a twist. The midnight humidity is sitting at 85%. He's skimming so close to the local lakes that the water vapor scatters the radar waves like light hitting a broken mirror. He isn't just flying, he is literally surfing on black water. But there is a catch. Flying this low in thick air makes the MiG's engines work double time. The exhaust temperature hits 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. He's basically a flying blowtorch in a dark room. This is where the Western hack kicks in. That $5 million ECM pod under his wing isn't just jamming signals, it's lying. It is frequency hopping 1,000 times per second, broadcasting a specific algorithmic signature that mimics the Doppler return of a massive flock of migratory birds. Somewhere in a warm bunker, a Russian operator looks at the blip, sees biological movement, and probably thinks, "Ah, wild ducks, let them fly, Ivan, save the missile." Inside the cockpit, reality is biting back. The low fuel warning flickers on the dash. He has 1,200 gallons of kerosene left, enough for maybe 600 miles if he behaves. But Viper isn't here to behave. He grits his teeth. Trump's deal says peace, but Putin cuts the power to our children. Well, I'm about to cut the power back. 03:28 a.m. Moscow time. The game of hide-and-seek ends abruptly. On Viper's heads-up display, the calm green horizon line suddenly turns into a flashing red nightmare. He has tripped the wire. The warning icon for the S-400 Triumph system lights up, specifically the 92N6E Gravestone radar. This piece of hardware is the reason NATO pilots lose sleep. Located at the Electrostall base just 40 miles from the power plant, it can track 300 targets simultaneously from 250 nautical miles away. It is currently warming up a 40N6E missile, a weapon that screams through the sky at over 10,000 miles per hour. The MiG shudders as the concentrated radar energy hits the airframe, feeling like a physical slap from an invisible hand. The Russians have activated their massive acquisition radar to burn through the jamming. But Viper knows something the Russian software doesn't. He pushes the stick forward, diving toward Lake Shatura. The S-400 is a giant, designed to kill eagles at 30,000 feet. Viper is flying in the dirt. he drops to 60 feet, skimming the dark, freezing water of the 10-square-mile lake. Down here, the radar waves hitting the rippling water scatter like light hitting a broken mirror. To the billion-dollar Russian computer, the jet disappears into the ground clutter. He is essentially hiding under the enemy's skirt, using their own geography against them. 03:32 a.m. Moscow time. Here is where the math gets brutal. The MiG-29 is fast, capable of hitting Mach 2.25, but it has the radar cross-section of a billboard. In the world of modern air defense, speed is nothing without stealth, and Viper is flying a jet from the 1980s against a Russian defense network worth $500 million. It looks like a mismatch. Russia is the big guy with a baseball bat, Ukraine is the kid with a slingshot, but this kid has a trick that isn't in any Russian manual. Viper activates the biomimicry protocol. Under his right wing, 2 of the Wild Hornet mini drones detach. They don't attack, instead they activate their 1-watt jammers. Utilizing research derived from DARPA, these tiny machines broadcast a specific electromagnetic frequency that mimics the flutter of Canadian geese wings. At the same time, the MiG's onboard AI, software developed by the same team behind the Bayraktar drones, begins analyzing the S-400 scan pattern. The massive Russian radar rotates once every few seconds. To a human, it looks continuous. To an AI, it's a strobe light. The computer identifies a 1.9-second blind spot in every 8-second scan cycle. Viper isn't just flying low, he is flying in the temporal gaps of the enemy's vision. Combined with the geography of Shatura, where low hills block the lower frequency waves, the MiG is effectively invisible. It is weaving through the digital shadows. Inside the Russian command truck, the operators are looking at a screen filled with what looks like a massive flock of birds migrating south. They pause. They hesitate. They sip their coffee, thinking it's just another false alarm. That hesitation is the weapon. This sortie proves a point that no peace deal can address. Ukraine doesn't need F-35s to strike deep, they just need to be smarter than the guy pushing the buttons in Moscow. Intelligence is beating money. 03:35 a.m. Moscow time. The mission goes sideways. 20 miles to the north, the 2 decoy drones Viper deployed earlier detonate their payloads. 10 pounds of C4 each designed to create a distraction. They succeed too well. The explosion creates a localized electromagnetic storm and a physical pressure wave that hits the low-flying MiG like an invisible fist. The jet bucks violently. Viper fights the stick as the dirty air, a mini hurricane of 50-knot crosswinds, shoves the nose 3.6 degrees off course, dangerously close to the water's surface. And then the lights go out. The Russian bear isn't sleeping anymore. The massive Krasuka 4 electronic warfare system, stationed nearby to protect the capital, kicks into overdrive. It blasts a cone of broadband jamming energy covering 186 nautical miles. Instantly, every GPS satellite link in Viper's cockpit dies. His moving map freezes. The time to target counter goes blank. In a modern fighter jet, losing GPS is like driving a race car at 200 mph with a blindfold on. But Viper doesn't panic. He switches to the ace in the hole. The MiG-29 isn't navigating by satellite anymore. It has switched to a hybrid inertial navigation system, retrofitted with a military-grade fiber optic gyroscope kit sourced from Israel. This thing is so sensitive it can detect the rotation of the Earth. It doesn't need to see where it is, it feels where it is, measuring drift with an accuracy of 0.1 degrees per hour. Viper is now flying purely on math and a preloaded 3D terrain map, ghosting through the electronic fog. But the S-400 battery has had enough of the games. The 92 N6E radar burns through the interference and achieves a solid, terrifying hardlock on Viper's jet. A 48 N6 missile, a telephone pole filled with high explosives, leaps off the rail at Mach 6. It covers a mile every second. This is the moment Viper has been saving the special payload for. He flips a guarded switch on the throttle. Swarm illusion, engage! From the underwing rails, the 4 remaining Wild Hornet mini-drones drop away. These aren't just explosives, they are flying transmitters. As they disperse, they begin broadcasting a synchronized, amplified radar return. On the screens inside the Russian command vehicle, the single blip of the MiG-29 suddenly splits. One target becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 20. The S-400's fire control computer is a beast, capable of tracking 80 targets. But it isn't programmed for this. It sees an entire squadron of MiG-29s materializing out of thin air, all closing in at attack speed. The logic gates flood. The threat prioritization algorithms crash. The Russian commander stares at his screen in absolute horror, screaming. Is this an invasion? Where did they come from? It's not an invasion, it's a party trick. While the Russian missile guidance system stutters, trying to decide which of the 20 ghosts to kill, Viper pushes the throttle through the gate. The afterburners ignite with a raw, guttural roar. Through the forward-looking infrared pod, the target finally burns through the darkness. There it is, the main turbine hall of the Shatura Power Plant. Inside, a massive steam turbine is spinning at 3,600 RPM, glowing white-hot at 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's no longer a machine, it is prey. And Viper is the predator. 3:38 a.m., Moscow time, the countdown hits 43 seconds. The pilot pushes the stick forward, forcing the MiG down to a suicidal 50 feet. The turbulence from the lake surface hammers the airframe. The wind is whipping against the canopy like a leather strap. The low fuel light is now a steady, unblinking red glare. He has 20% reserves left, barely enough to turn around, let alone fight. But the fight finds him. A Pantsir S1 battery guarding the plant's perimeter opens fire. This system is designed for close-range butchery, armed with 12 ready-to-fire missiles and dual 30mm cannons. Streams of tracer fire erupt into the night, looking like angry red fireflies zipping past the canopy. Inside the main command truck, the S-400 commander is screaming, "Target lost!" The swarm of ghost signals has done its job. The main radar computer has crashed, unable to distinguish the jet from the electronic hallucinations. But the Pantsir gunners aren't using radar. They are firing visually, spraying the air in a desperate curtain of lead. Then, impact. A 57E6 interceptor missile screams past the right wing. It doesn't score a direct hit, but the proximity fuse detonates. Shrapnel shreds 2 feet of the composite wingtip. The jet lurches violently to the left. Inside the cockpit, the sharp, acrid smell of ozone and burning fiberglass floods the air. The captain fights the controls, wrestling the 15-ton machine back to level flight. "Still flying," he grits out. "Not today." He flips the switch for the final trick, the Storm Shadow Mimic. From the centerline pylon, a specialized pod drops a payload. It isn't a missile. It's a canister containing 10 pounds of thermobaric explosive designed to create a massive, flashy fireball. A Hollywood special effect in the middle of a war zone. It detonates harmlessly over the lake, creating a shockwave and a visual signature that mimics a catastrophic aircraft explosion. On the ground, the Russian troops cheer. They think they got him. They think the threat is neutralized. They stop firing. In the sudden silence, MiG-29 roars out of the smoke, untouched by the celebration below. Through the glowing green screen of the FLIR pod, the target is now naked and exposed. The main turbine hall. Inside that concrete shell sits a 100-foot-long steam turbine spinning at 3,600 RPM, radiating heat at 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It is the perfect thermal bullseye, and it is about to get cooked. 3:38:05 a.m. Moscow time. Viper smashes the pistol button. The MiG lurches upward as 500 pounds of American-made Vengeance drops from the rail. It's an AGM-88 Harm, usually designed to hunt radar dishes. But the Ukrainian engineers didn't just hack the jet. They hacked the missile. They swapped the standard warhead for a thermobaric charge, a fuel-air explosive designed to burn at 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit. The missile accelerates to Mach 2, riding the very radar waves of the S-400 that tried to kill Viper seconds ago. It slams directly into the center of the main turbine hall. The impact is biblical. The warhead penetrates 20 feet of reinforced concrete before detonating. A shockwave of 5,000 psi erupts inside the hall. The main turbine, a massive 80-ton steel rotor spinning at 3,600 RPM, is instantly destabilized. It doesn't just stop, it disintegrates. 10-inch thick steel blades shatter like cheap glass, turning into supersonic shrapnel that shreds the 3 auxiliary boilers. The mixture of leaking diesel fuel and pressurized oxygen creates a fireball 1,000 feet high. The kinetic energy release is 2 megajoules, roughly the same as detonating 500 pounds of TNT inside a phone booth. The shockwave cracks windows in suburbs 50 miles away. Shatura, a $1 billion facility, is turned into a twisted pile of scrap metal in 0.4 seconds. In the Kremlin, the lights flicker and die. 2 million Muscovites wake up to a freezing, pitch-black silence. Putin isn't dreaming about his peace deal anymore. He's wondering why his nightlight just went out. But Viper isn't celebrating yet. His fuel gauge reads critical. He has less than 8 minutes of flight time remaining, nowhere near enough to cross the border back to Ukraine. The Russian Air Force is waking up and angry Su-35s are scrambling from every base within 200 miles. He was never planning to fly home. Viper drops to 50 feet, engaging the terrain following radar one last time. He heads west, not south. He crosses into the Bryansk region, a dense wooded border zone. There, on a long-abandoned Soviet agricultural airstrip buried under 6 inches of snow, 3 infrared strobes flash in the darkness. It's the extraction team, members of the Freedom of Russia Legion, partisans operating deep behind enemy lines. Viper dumps the jet onto the icy concrete. The landing gear screams, blowing a tire, but the MiG skids to a halt just yards from the tree line. He pops the canopy and jumps into the snow, leaving the $25 million jet behind. It has served its purpose. As he climbs into the back of a waiting civilian truck, the partisan driver grins and hands him a hot coffee. "Nice fireworks, Captain. The whole skyline is glowing." By sunrise, the damage report is humiliating. The Shatura plant is offline indefinitely. Russia has lost 500 megawatts of power and $5 million a day in gas revenue. To protect the remaining grid, the Ministry of Defense is forced to pull 3 Pantsir batteries off the Donbass front lines, weakening their offensive exactly where it matters most. Never underestimate an old dog with new tricks. Money buys weapons, but brains win wars. Now, I have a challenge for you guys in the comments. Russia is definitely going to retaliate. If they send Su-57s and Kinjal missiles next week, what is the best bargain bin weapon Ukraine should use to counter them? Give me your best MacGyver solution below. If you support the underdogs who fight with their brains, smash that like button. Subscribe for more fiery messages.